مع هالة وآمال وشيماء. سوف نتعرف على بعض منها من الساعة 2 إلى 3 عصرا كل ثلاثاء وجمعة بإذن الله.
For a list of all our sponsors, please visit ramadanfm.com.
Ramadan, 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 87.9 FM.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sister Talk. My name is Moriam Grillo and I'm really glad to have you here with us this afternoon. We've got quite a busy show today. Our first guest is Shamiza Rashid, and then we'll have Sister Zehra joining us later on, as well as the lovely, beautiful, mashallah, Quranic recitation from Sister Lily. We'll also have Sarah Russell joining us shortly as well. But before all of that, I'd like to introduce and welcome Shamiza Rashid to the show. Assalamu alaikum, Shamiza.
Wa alaikum salam, Moriam.
Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm feeling absolutely wonderful, even more so in your company this evening. I'm really excited to hear that Sarah is also joining us today.
Yes, that's wonderful. So she'll come on shortly. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Shamiza.
Well, I am a community broadcaster. I am based in Luton. And apart from community broadcasting, I'm also a theatre maker, an emerging theatre maker, an artist, writer, and mother of six.
What was the last thing you said? Sorry, I missed that.
A mother of six.
A mother of six. That should have been top of the list, in my opinion. Well, thank you for sharing. That's incredible. That's phenomenal, in fact, and so much talent there. So, I mean, if you were to describe what you're up to now, Shamiza, what are you doing, especially over these last few weeks?
I think I'm kind of reflecting. That's what I'm doing. I'm reflecting and focusing on what life will be like after lockdown has ended. That's what I'm doing. I'm kind of like reflecting on the year that I've had, and also kind of picking out areas of myself that I hope I'll continue to better June onwards.
Yeah, inshallah, that's wonderful and lovely to do that actually in these final days of Ramadan, to really have a kind of, intention moving forward. But so tell us about lockdown. What has lockdown been like for you, and what lessons have you learned? What has been your overall experience?
It's been interesting, as it has been for everybody else. We've all kind of been sailing the ship, but our storms have been very, very different. And each storm has its place. So for me, I think I've been quite blessed in the fact that I've not felt as lonely as many other people may have felt, because I've got 6 different characters I'm living with, and they've allowed me to keep that strength and motivation going, because I've had to deal with their ups and downs.
Yeah.
Which has made me feel less focused on me and more focused on them.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to have them in my life.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's a challenge in itself, actually, having to keep 6 young hearts, in a balanced place throughout all of this uncertainty.
But their quirkiness and their personalities have really come through. But I think another area that has really kept me going is creativity.
Yes.
And the value of that, and the way that has kind of enabled me to embrace who I am, the producer as well, and how I'm able to use that to connect with the wider community, which I didn't think would have been as possible in the lockdown, but has made me strong is the realization that creativity can be used to connect with community in so many different ways. I didn't really underestimate smallest craft, for example, handicraft, and how beneficial that could be in people's lives. Because when we think of art, we always think of art as being high culture. But art can come in so many different forms. That's what I've learned to love and appreciate.
And as far as your, creative production is concerned, what form of creative expression, what form of art are you most interested in? You mentioned theatre making. Are there other areas as
Yes.
well?
My passion has always been to use my platforms of creativity to kind of focus on social justice as a means of empowerment. So just a week before the production, which looked at the lives of motherhood by austerity, and all those journeys we have that are not accounted for. We can't silently go on this journey, and I was able to connect with 50 amazing women across Luton from all walks of life, from all different backgrounds, sharing their stories in monologues. So they shared their stories, and it was really opening and engaging and inspiring, and it really brought the light and spotlight on the stories that women and communities and the sacrifices they make with next to nothing sometimes, to make sure that they're providing the best for their children. So with that theme, I think that mental well-being needs to be high on the list of creating art as well. And so I've had the opportunity to engage with lots of organisations that come forward and actually said, use our platform to kind of engage with the wider community, but with mental well-being support. And so my recent projects, one has been an embroidery one, which is allowing women and children across to kind of create their stories with embroidery. It was with Amina Khayyam Theatre Company, and what was outstanding was I underestimated the value of handicraft. And mashallah, we had so many participants. It was 800 across the country sharing the story, using the thread, and then this artwork will become a larger art piece.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. No, it's just that your sound was dropping out, so just wanted to make sure that you can hear me. So you're talking about this new piece of embroidery work that you're doing, which is kind of linking on from the monologues that you mentioned. Where did you get the idea from the monologues from?
The monologue idea is like we're always reflecting on stories that we sit and we share when we're at a coffee shop, maybe. When we want a bit of relief, we tend to share our personal moments amongst friends. And then I realized whenever I was out having a break, having a bit of a coffee, that was like my respite. It occurred to me that was the time where we were a lot more open to share stories. So I just wanted to turn that conversation into a theatre piece.
Yes, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And so then the main premise of the performance was to share the stories of women's lives.
Women's lives, women who have been, may have used the food banks, or they may have been impacted by benefit cuts. And so how they've been able to manage motherhood and provide the best for their children under those circumstances. We also had stories of women who are not mothers but are carers for their mothers, and how governmental cutbacks might have impacted the care that they were being able to give for their elderly parents.
So there was a story from a wide spectrum of women, and that's what the beauty of this project was, because no story was not valuable. Every story was valuable to share.
Oh, fantastic. That's beautiful. And so then tell me about the embroidery. Is this also about stories as well? Sharing stories?
It was, but this is a completely different way of doing so. Here we were getting to see the embroidery actually storytelling with thread.
Mm.
So I had the pleasure of Amina Khayyam connecting with me, who has a dance company, and she uses dance to storytell. So in the lockdown, one thing that was really important for was to connect with women that were isolated. So one of her projects was liaising with groups of women that might be impacted by domestic violence. So she'd contacted me and asked me whether I'd be interested in taking this project forward and being a project lead. And I have to stress that originally I thought, how can we connect with, in lockdown, using WhatsApp and embroidery as a means to get people to confidently share their well-being stories in lockdown, be they high, be they low. And I was really taken aback by how popular the project became, how kind people were in sharing their personal stories. And the project gained so many duas from its participants, because a lot of people were saying that this enabled them to just have some time out. Time out for themselves. It kind of allowed them to switch off a little bit, and to kind of allow them to grieve if they've lost any loved ones, and use those stories and use that as a memory that they can embody into this piece of embroidery. And I was so taken aback by the beautiful stitching, the shapes, the thought process. And our youngest was 6 years old, and the eldest was 93 that participated.
Incredible.
So I had to provide packs to all these wonderful people. And mashallah, the Luton makeup was amazing. But we had over 800 people participating and engaging across the country.
And how many did you have in Luton?
We had about 70.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Over WhatsApp.
Fantastic. So you created a mini community.
Oh, beautiful community on WhatsApp. Now we have this love and hate relationship with WhatsApp, don't we? You know, the notifications can be quite annoying, constant pinging. But what we found was this was a undervalued means of communicating and building a community. Originally, when I was told you need to lead this project via WhatsApp, I was like, really? But I have to say, it's actually worked quite a treat, as long as you have the notification switched off.
Must have been very busy for you, but how beautiful to share stories in that way and to connect people in that way as well.
Definitely. Like I said, when I first initially was invited to lead this project, I was curious. I wasn't as confident. I thought we were only expecting to have, say, 20 to 30 people engaged, not the number that we did, in so quickly as well, and realizing there was a real need for this. On the project, unfortunately, one of the women participants died in COVID.
Oh dear. Oh,
which was heartbreaking. We also had the opportunity to reach out to somebody that was really struggling and needed some well-being support. So there were highs and there were lows in this project. But the project doesn't stop there, because Amina will be bringing all those pieces fabric that have had embroidery on them and turning that into a large art piece, which will be showcased, exhibited in Luton.
Do you know when that will be?
I'm hoping after June sometime. So what we're doing is she will be putting all those wonderful swatches of fabric, printing them on a dress.
Right.
And that dress will be used to perform in.
Oh, interesting. So all of the 800 different entries.
Yes.
Incredible,
Yes.
Incredible.
So there may be a dress per city.
Right, per area.
So we'll have one specifically for Luton, one for Woking, one for Birmingham, one for London, one for Cornwall, and everywhere else it had the participation
done. Lovely. What a lovely idea. So let's move on to Ramadan. Just thinking about, I mean, we're coming to the end of it now, the last few days. How has that been for you? And, you know, what have your lessons and reflections been throughout this holy month?
Ramadan has been interesting because lockdown one, I found it a lot easier. And this was a new experience for everybody because it was the first time we were experiencing in this strange time of the pandemic. I think when waking up for the Hur was a little bit easier, or going to sleep was a little bit easier because it was like 1 o'clock. This time it seems a little bit harder because it was a lot later. But it's been interesting and very reflective. But the art hasn't stopped, Moriam, because I'm actually doing a new project which has the Ramadan theme in it.
Oh, lovely. Tell us more.
Which is called a Date to Share project. So a Date to Share project is basically the Ramadan fruit has been donated as packs to households, and it's been commissioned by Revolution Arts. And this project is about reflecting, connecting, and creating with communities. So we're inviting community members.
Go ahead, Shamiza.
So
Go ahead.
the day. So in the resource pack for the households, we sent not just date fruit to 50 households, but also paint, gold and blue paint. Now, the whole purpose of the public art piece is to showcase the spirit and community of Muslims across lockdown in Ramadan. So we're kind of using lots of creative, quirky ways in keeping that connection with our communities, because this project, once again, is about mental well-being, and Revolution Arts, who commissioned this, are working under the theme of isolation and how to connect people in isolation.
This is so interesting, Shamiza. I just need to apologise to everybody because I've had some background noise in my home. I put my phone on mute, but I think in doing that, we may have lost some of what you said. But in essence, you are doing a project with local people in which they paint a date stone, which I'm finding slightly curious, you know, because they're quite small date stones. So what kinds of creative expression are you anticipating receiving back?
So when they are painted with the blue and the gold paint that we're sending, these will be inserted, glued onto a large canvas, which will form part of a painted impression created by Mara Fatima. So it will be scene of some sort, which will represent the mood, the feeling, the expressions of the Muslim community across the pandemic, and how they're spiritually connected in Ramadan. So you might see the date stones as part of a window of a masjid, or it might form part of the hijab of one of the images that are being created in the piece. So this is what's quite exciting. We don't know what the end result's going to be looking like, but what we are going to be seeing is that the fact that the community has participated in making this happen, which is really exciting.
Yes, very exciting actually. I can't wait to see it. So that will be really interesting to see what Umaira makes of all of these contributions. And I wonder what she has in mind already actually, because her work is very exciting, very interesting in general. So this is going to be fascinating to see. But before, I mean, Shumaiza, are you able to stay with us until 3, or do you need to leave?
I'm more than happy to stay with you.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
If my listeners can hear me clearly, because I can hear a bit of feedback.
What I will have to do is I will ask the producer to phone you back during the break, so that we have a clearer sound and she has you in the studio. Or I think she has a WhatsApp number that you can call, so I'll ask her to share that with you. But it will be great to have you stay with us. Before you leave, I just wondered if there are any sort of like final thoughts or words you wanted to share in regards to your creative practice, your time during Ramadan, lessons, reflections learnt before we go to break?
I think it's about keeping those connections alive through communicating in whatever form that we've been able to embrace in lockdown. I hope they continue for people. I think forgiveness is key. And keeping connections with our loved ones and our friends that we've built or we may have lost, may they continue. And post-lockdown ending, it's going to be quite a strange time for many people, but take your time easing into this new, they say it's a new normal, but I would say a new better. And take your time.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Thank you for that. I mean, I think we have to look at what's happening globally as well, don't we? Because if we look towards South Asia and the rise in people affected there, until we as a world are doing better, I think we have to see that, perhaps there may be even anticipated another wave here in some time to come. So we have to be careful about getting out there very quickly, I think, and still be very cautious. Because even though lockdown may be over, it doesn't appear that the pandemic is. So that's something to really bear in mind.
Of course.
But thank you, Shumaiza. Please do stay with us. Zehra is with us here as well. Salam, Zehra. And we will be coming back after the break, inshallah, with more reflection and more sort of thoughts and feelings about Ramadan, inshallah. See you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Ramadan, 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 Ramadan. The new moon we've come upon, the month of fasting has begun. It's time to purify the hearts, and so we welcome Ramadan, 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 Ramadan. We are one, one, one. Oh, we are one, one, one. One ummah under the sun, one ummah praising the one. We are one, one, one. Oh, we are one, one, one. We love Allah's beloved. Send peace upon Muhammad. We are one, one, one. Oh, we are one, one, one. We fast and pray and smile and say, Subhanallah, Allah be praised. So it's one, one, one. We say, Ramadan has begun. Ramadan, Ramadan. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi Muhammad وبارك وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Ramadan Radio, 87.9 FM.
Allah has bestowed us with another Ramadan. Its days are the perfect time to help the suffering Ummah with our supplications and our charitable giving. Make the difference with UK charity Ummah Welfare Trust by supporting its emergency, development and Ramadan programs. We are part of the Ummah, and the Ummah is a part of us. So be generous and donate for our brothers and sisters this Ramadan.
Ramadan Mubarak from Adam Accounting Services.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Need help with your accounts and tax work?
Contact us today on 01908 692 380 and see how we can help.
Adam Accounting Services, friendly local accountants. Call us today on 01908 692 380.
Come and visit us at Al Ansar and find fantastic deals on food and drink. At Al Ansar, we specialize in Asian groceries and HMC halal meat. We stock products from all over the world and have everything you need this Ramadan, from big packs of rice, flour and oil to dates, treats and snacks. You can find us at 153 Queens Way in Bletchley or call us on 01908 411 334.
There are over 1 billion people in the world who do not have access to clean, safe drinking water. Every 90 seconds, a child dies from horrific waterborne diseases. Awarded the UK's Best Muslim Charity of the Year, Muslim Global Relief has been providing water to villages, schools and remote communities for over 20 years in 40 countries around the world. Build a water well or hand pump in your name or a loved one today. Make a 100% Zakat donation. Visit muslimglobalrelief.org.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. I'm Zahida from the short reminder show Way to the Quran. Each week I'll be reading to you extracts from Way to the Quran. It's a book by Khurram Murad, and some other extracts to deepen our relation with Quran by listening to the most captivating words of wisdom. To listen to the extracts, please tune in after Zuhur Azan on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
For a list of all our sponsors, please visit ramadanfm.com.
Ramadan, 87.9 FM.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Sister Talk. We've been pleased to be joined by Shamiza Rashid, creative producer, radio presenter, and ordinarily extraordinary and sparkly human being, and she's still with us, inshallah. And I'm now being joined by Sister Zahra Nakvi. Salam, Zahra. Nice to see you.
Walaikum assalam. Good to see you, Moriam.
Thank you. And I just want to apologize to everybody. We were hoping to have Sarah Russell here today, but she was unfortunately unable to join us. But before we go any further, this is, as you know, our second half of the show where we have a more reflective session, and we have some Quran recitation from Sister Lily, who will be doing that for us shortly. So Shamiza, feel free to jump in at any point in the conversation and just share your reflections and your thoughts as well. Zahra, as usual, I will hope that you're leading this conversation, because it's always wonderful and exciting, mashallah, to hear, what your thoughts and openings have been over the week. So before we go any further, we will have Sister Lily, who will be reciting from the 27th juz, which coincides with today's Quranic recitation, and it is Surah Ar-Rahman, ayat 1 to 8.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم را تلك آيات الكتاب والذي أنزل إليك من ربك الحق ولكن أكثر الناس لا يؤمنون الله الذي رفع السماوات بغير عمد ترونها ثم استوى على العرش وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى يدبر الأمر يفصل الآيات لعلكم بلقاء ربكم توقنون.
MashaAllah. What we had there was not the same Quranic recitation. That was a different surah, so I apologize for that. But I will read Surah Rahman, ayat 1 to 8 in English. In the name of Allah, All Merciful, Most Merciful. The All Merciful taught the Quran. He created man and taught him clear expression. The sun and the moon both run with precision. The stars and the trees all bow down in prostration. He erected heaven and established the balance, so that you would not transgress the balance. Give just weight, do not skimp in the balance. He laid out the earth for all living creatures. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. So we did have a different Quranic recitation there, but that was beautiful anyway. So thank you, Jazakallah khair, for Sister Lily for sending that in. And we have Surah Rahman, Sister Zahra. And I wonder if you have any reflections on either.
Yes, Mariam, it's beautiful. And actually, I wanted to talk about Surah Rahman today as well. And it's been, this is one of the beautiful surah of the Quran. I mean, the whole Quran is beautiful, mashallah. But you know, there's some surahs and some ayahs really touch your heart and your soul. And this is, for me personally, this is one of those surahs. And the message is I find it's quite poetical and mystical surah. And the rhythm of the surah, and then and I was just reading, it has about 78 ayahs and 31 times repeated about which one of the bounties of your Lord will you deny. So that was like something, what is Allah trying to teach us through that verse? And when I'm still reflecting, and inshallah one day I might be able to comprehend what does it mean, but it's just so vast, and so many on almost all level. And when Allah talks about himself, and it talks about the man's intelligent, and he's talk about the balance and justice, and so many things he's talking about. And I was also reading about that surah, that it brings a tranquility to the heart. And I remember this particular surah when my blessed mother-in-law passed away, and I had a dream within the 40 days, and she wanted me to recite that for her. And I thought, what is the significance for me in that? And I find it's a healing for the heart as well.
MashaAllah.
And so it was quite something, and almost it's about 30 odd years ago, but I still feel that it's fresh with me.
MashaAllah. And some things in English, yes.
the impact of her asking me to do that, and then there was something that it hasn't left me.
Mm.
And then Allah also talks about in this surah that how He created everything in pairs, in duality, but that duality leads to unity.
Yes. Can I just jump in there, Zahra, because you've said some really potent things there, just even the idea of Ar-Rahman and justice, which links into Shemaisa's work with social justice, but also what you mentioned about your mother-in-law, peace be upon her, when you mentioned about reciting that, but the 30 years, this happening 30 years ago still feels so fresh. But for me, the Quran encapsulates that in being able to, over 1400 years, connect a story that is so relevant with each of us individually as it was when it was first revealed. So it's quite fascinating, this idea of how time is shrunk and expanded, or so dynamic, but how it calls us to use our imagination in a way that everyday life doesn't. Shemaisa, I just want you to jump in there with your work on social justice and Surah Rahman, and what Zahra said about that repeated verse, so which part of your Lord's bounties do you both then deny? What do you feel that your work offers to the community that is, in a sense, those stories that you mentioned that are denied by the mainstream, that you feel that you're tapping into? I hope that makes sense. You're on mute, Shemaisa. I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. Go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, go ahead, Shemaisa.
Okay, I'm just trying to get in. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Did my question make sense? Is the question?
Can I just say thank you very much to Sister Zahra's beauty? Yes, it does, clearly. Sister Zahra's reflection is beautiful, and it did resonate with me quite profoundly, because I think the social justice for me is maturing each year. The older I'm getting to see, I'm getting to connect with people and communities in a way I may never have done before. And I think that's through trust. Through trust, I believe, and reflection.
Beautiful.
And not forcing things onto people, and allowing people to, or the community, to come to me if they want to participate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And what's really interesting, Zahra, listening to Shemaisa, is this idea of a vertical axis and a horizontal axis in life, in the sense that our spiritual connection with Allah is vertical, but He calls on us to kind of have that horizontal connection with one another as community, but that transaction on earth. And that for me is what Shemaisa is really linking into there, that connection with a community, with service to one another. So that's quite beautiful.
Yeah, and also, Maria, what I feel that if, because as we connect with each other, and if we are clear with our intention and with our actions, so we can be mirror for each other as well. And we can help each other, we can elevate each other. And this is, I feel personally, this is the purpose of Allah sent us here as well. And then it's tied with the macro and the micro, and then it goes into, I always confuse about this macro and micro.
Micro, yeah. Microcosm, macrocosm.
And so I think that surah sometimes, not sometimes, I think most of the time for me, it just something brings home. So many things about, and the bounty, when we talk about the bounty, what are the bounties? Even if you go through a calamity, that's also a bounty.
SubhanAllah. Yes.
And because this is, and I feel personally from my own personal experiences that it's my perception. If things happening according to my limited vision, so, and I'm not happy about it, so this is negative, that is negative. But if something is happening according to my perception, it make me happy, so it's good. But what I realize through these years and recently as well, that even some things appear to be negative, it's a mercy from Allah, because that is my tarbiyah, that's my upbringing he's doing through those things. And at that time, I felt that I had to just submit without questioning, accept it without questioning, and just be in that zone of silence and stillness that will lead me to understanding. And I might not be able to understand that. That's also fine. That's also his rahmah as well.
Exactly.
And when he feels it, time is right, and it's a kun fayakun from him. So who am I?
And it's so interesting, so powerful, because it's, this, as you say, the bounty we can perceive as good or bad, we can perceive as big or small, but there's something for us as humans, which for me has been something to reflect upon, that I have been reflecting upon a lot during Ramadan, this idea of our own self-sufficiency, or this delusion of our own self-sufficiency, when it is Allah that enables us to do everything, to lift my hand, to speak, to breathe in and out. And those are bounties, but those are things that we often take for granted, so it's really fascinating when you mention it like that, Zahra.
Because, and when we go out and we see the nature, and we are in awe, basically. And we always, like from the childhood, we heard that from without his permission, even the leaf cannot turn. So then I sometimes question, so then, who am I?
Yeah.
It's pure, it's his rahmah. If I'm able to even speaking, that's also his bounty. And thinking his bounty, reflecting his bounty. So all these things, I just, especially from last few nights, has been such a blessed time. And just going deeper and deeper about these things. And just has nothing to say other than Subhanallah.
Subhanallah, which is great. It's great to take you to that point of realization. Yeah. Shamiza, were you just about to say something?
Yeah, I'm so humbled to be in the presence of Zahra, and so enamored by her view and the beauty and this connection of spiritualism that she has, which I pray we all have. And the beauty of age and maturity for me is the fact that I'm seeing so much divine majesty in the surahs and our connection with earth and nature around us. And one thing Ramadan is very, very beautiful for me is the fact that this year I've seen across social media that people have been a lot more honest and have said that come as you are to this month of this beautiful blessed month. Don't put pressure on yourself by, if you're not able to do your full complete ibadah, come with an open heart, come with a broken heart, come with however you are, all your warts and all. And the Almighty is forgiving and merciful, but don't put so much pressure on yourself if you can't be that perfect Muslim. And this is so beautiful because I've seen more of this, and it's so very much needed for me as a person, because I feel I'm all warts and all. And I feel that every year I might be able to be given another chance to get better.
MashaAllah. And it's really interesting. Go ahead, Shamiza.
And yeah, so this is where I'm hoping I can be better next month across Ramadan, if I'm able to see Ramadan next year. But this is
And what you say about, are you still there, Shemiza? Because we can't hear you at the moment. I'm just going to speak until you speak, so feel free to jump in. Interesting what you say about the idea of a perfect Muslim, because I mean, is there such a thing? And also, I think even when we think we're doing it perfectly right, perhaps we're not being as genuine as we can be. I think, as you say, come in warts and all, come in with all of us, being honest about where we are, being honest about our ability to do or not do, and seeking out Allah's mercy, seeking out Allah's assistance and support is where the perfection lies, in recognizing that we are not capable without Him, and recognizing that we have total reliance on Him. That's where the perfection is. So perhaps in the humility of recognizing our limitations is where the perfection is, as opposed to I was up every night doing Salatul Layl, or, I managed to read all of the ayat, so we have to be careful about what we perceive as perfection, I believe.
And thank you for sharing that and saying that, because sometimes what I find is just safe space to be honest and actually really say, look, I can't do it all, and I find it's a struggle, and I can't be like everybody else, but every effort I'm making, I'm hoping I'm getting rewarded and recognized for, that I'm coming closer to the Almighty, but I'm not stepping backwards.
MashaAllah. Good. Yeah. Inshallah. Inshallah, that is the case. And I wish you every success, within these last few days moving forward, because, it's the Eid. It's when we return back to life as we know it, that we hope to have had that kind of transition, that development, that awareness and awakening that kind of gives us the tools to move forward in a better version of ourselves. Right, Zahra?
Yes, I mean, I just would like to thank Shemiza for such a beautiful reflection, that we all strive for that as well. And I think for me, this Ramadan, the gift came as the honesty for within my own self, that even if I'm praying just 2 rakats, and within that prayer, if I have 100% as much as I can be honest, sincere, present. So I personally, because for me, I think it's about quality, not the quantity anymore. So if I'm praying 2 rakats, and if I'm taking my time, let's say maybe I will just spend half an hour in my 2 rakats. So for me, those 2 rakats would be much better than maybe doing my maybe 100 rakats. And my heart is not there. And I'm feeling that, I have to do it. That kind of feeling. And so I tried from last few nights, and I could see the difference. I could see, because I felt that intention, there's so many things coming to surface with that, Moriam, that the intention is between you and Allah. No matter how you do it, even if you, sometimes I feel that if I don't have the words to even say what I want to say, and I said, Allah, what I in my heart, so please just, accept it, because I don't even know how to utter those words.
Yeah.
And because He knows my intention, as long as my intention is pure and is clear, and then the rest is up to Him, because He is Ghafurur Rahim. He's the knower. He's the subtler. He's the guide. So, and He's the forgiver as well, most of all. So even if I lack, or I do lack in my sincerity, in my prayers, in my intention, but I have this faith and certainty that through His mercy, He will forgive me.
Absolutely, mashallah. That's beautiful. Shemiza?
I'm quite overwhelmed listening to Sister Zahra, because it's a beautiful reflection, because forgiveness is key. Justice is key. And we talk about social justice, and the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about giving us justice, forgiveness and mercy. And the fact that we're blessed to have a month in the year to remind ourselves that this is an opportunity for that forgiveness. It's beautiful. And may we all be rewarded for the little and the large.
Inshallah.
It's all about the quality of our reflections, and I think that's such a valuable thing that Sister Zahra has said, because I think we forget the quality is more valuable than the quantity. That connection, I think, is more imperative.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think part of that is living in a capitalistic society where it's about more, more, more. So then we take on that notion that more is better, more is good, more proves that, I'm doing this. But, again, the Islamic dream is very different to the Western dream or the American dream. And it is about quality over quantity. It is about reflection over, self promotion or anything like that. So it's a much more inward, isn't it? Much more inward and subtle way of being, mashallah.
And for me, I think for my future progression with my work, I think I've become a lot more inward. As in, I don't want to overshare what I'm doing, just connect on the ground and just not be hidden. If that makes sense. The older I'm getting, I'm realizing I'm kind of wanting to cocoon myself. And just do the work and get on with it without the self-promotion. But then that has to come into play as well. It's having that balance, and I find that quite difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it's the nature of the work, isn't it? That, you need to make a bit of a noise about what's happening and taking place. Do you remember, Zahra, from Imrana Mahmood's Tales of the Diaspora?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you guys have been able to reconnect now.
Yes, I remember. Yes.
Good. We're coming into the final few minutes, and I'd like to play Surah Rahman before we end the show. So I want to give you both, Shamiza and Zahra, an opportunity to, have some closing thoughts and remarks as well. So, Shamiza, would you like to go first?
I just want to say thank you to you, Moriam, and thank you to you, Zahra, for such a beautiful show, for reminding me the beauty and simplicity of our faith, that quantity is much better than quality as long as we have that connection. And I just pray for humanity, and I pray for kindness and connection for a safer world, pandemic free.
I mean, thank you. That's lovely, Shamiza. And Zahra?
Yes, I think, Moriam, for the final thought, again, it comes back to forgiveness. As we ask forgiveness from Allah, especially our awareness heightened in this month through various things. But inshallah, as you said, when we go back, as Eid coming, and we go back to our daily normal kind of, activities. And for me, it's this forgiveness, that as we asking for forgiveness from Allah, may we be able to forgive others who have wronged us in any kind, in any form, because that forgiveness will, inshallah, bring closure to our own self. Because what I realized, forgiveness is not for anyone else, in for oneself.
Yeah.
And because I need to be free from anything. And I also pray that may Allah just allows us to get the maximum benefit of these few nights left, and may Allah just open the doors of every kind, on every level, for us all, inshallah. The people who are listening, and for my sister Shamiza, for Moriam, and inshallah for myself as well.
Ameen. Thank you so much, Zahra. Just want to thank you, Shamiza, for joining us today. It's been lovely having you, and so beautiful to hear your heartfelt outpourings. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your honesty and for your grace. And Sister Zahra, thank you so much for joining us over these 4 weeks. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to share this time with you and to enjoy your reflections and your thoughts, and which have helped me to expand my own. So I really, really appreciate that. I want to also thank our listeners for being with us over the last 4 weeks. It's been wonderful to have this opportunity to share Ramadan with you in this way. And And so therefore, as we've started this section, I would like to end our shows for this Ramadan with Quran and with Surah Rahman, and inshallah wish you all a blessed Eid. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Moriam. Thank you very much. May Allah bless you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
This is Ramadan 87.9 FM on your dial. From sun up to sundown, we'll be with you every step of the way.